My talk today is about presence. And I was meditating on this before we got started, and I was thinking about presence and being present. And you can go different ways on each one. I was thinking about what people normally talk about being or having presence. It's usually associated with something like stage presence. And what I'm referring to is just being more present. Because the work that I do, um, there's all different kinds of personalities and all different kinds of energies in a session. And it really helps me to be a better facilitator if I'm really present. And the presence that I carry is a loving presence. And I was thinking about that. How does that happen? I know that that's got to be a question. How does that get cultivated? How do you create that when maybe you've had a bad day or you've just gone through traffic or whatever the thing is? And the one thing that there's a few things that really has helped me. One is, of course, breathing, that I consciously breathe, take an inhale in and exhale as deeply as I can, that I'm releasing anything that doesn't serve me, that anything that is not of this moment. And the other thing that I tend to do is before I go into the session, I say a little prayer. And the prayer says, Holy Spirit, come, Holy Spirit, come, Holy Spirit, come. What would you have me say? What would you have me do? And what if I realized that the only thing that was true was love? And then I do my best to drop myself out of it, because if I had to rely on me, Daniel, to say what needs to be said or be how I need to be, um, just Daniel, the character, personality Daniel, doesn't have it all. So I rely on spirit heavily to guide what words come out. So when I say that, I realize that the responsibility is not mine, me, Daniel, and it usually works out great. So that helps me to relax and to be present with the person. And the next thing that I'm doing, and this, I guess this relates to in conversation when I'm in session, or if I'm talking on stage, or whatever the venue is, it's really more about feeling. It's really more about listening and feeling. So you can imagine that someone that is not very present, they're checking out their cell phone, they're thinking about the next thing to say, they're switching in their seat a lot. And I remember when I wasn't very present, what I would do is when I was in a conversation with someone, and then if they mentioned the word Africa, right away my mind would go, I've been to Africa. And it would be ready to just jump in there and say, oh, yes, I've been to Africa. And I finally asked myself, is it really necessary to keep mentioning Africa? I know there's a certain part of it that you were engaging in conversation, but some of it felt a little out of balance, and that I wasn't really listening to them. What if someone said, oh, I went to Africa and had a great time, instead of me jumping in there, oh, I've been to Africa too? What if I said, and how did it feel? What was your experience? Tell me where you went. Tell me what your experience was, how it felt to you. Really engage with them. That's more being present than what I used to do. Another way that that I haven't been present, my computer broke down, and I thought I'd take it apart and replace the battery, which it needed. And I felt myself getting less and less present, if you know what I mean. And I was undoing those tiny, tiny little screws and getting a little bit impatient. And I moved something a little bit too far, and I probably cost myself about $300 or $400. Had I been a little bit more present, I would have taken a breath, okay, and realized this is the point where it's very critical. And I would have gone in there a little bit easier and not done the damage that I did. So that's one example. There's another example, and I just did it. And it's something that I didn't usually give myself permission to do in the past, is when I'm wondering what the next thing is to say, that I just close my eyes, take a breath. I realize that sometimes when I talk, I can kind of get ahead of myself, or I can get excited and I can get passionate about something and then kind of lose my track. And so closing my eyes and taking a breath kind of brings me back to it. The benefits of being present is you get more true, more truthful, and more authentic with yourself and with other people. And I know that when I've been inauthentic or not really known myself, I'm just trying to fit in with everyone. And when I've become more and more present, I get to be authentic, and time slows down, and I start to feel life. I start to acknowledge the sweetness of life more. And even if someone is having a real hard time, they're going through sadness or depression or anger or whatever, that I acknowledge it, and I acknowledge that I too have also been in that place. And then there's this connection. And even now I can feel that now that I'm talking about this in a certain way, that tears are welling up in my eyes because I'm being present about it, that I've been in that place. And if I'm not present with that, then I keep on pushing it down and pushing it down. But if I'm present with myself, now I start to get into loving myself in a way that I've never experienced before. And this person that's in front of me has allowed me or engaged with me in a way that causes me to be there, to be completely present with my emotions. And I want to make sure that I'm really clear that being present isn't like this spiritual, non-emotional kind of being that has just, you know what I mean. But being present to me means I'm present with my emotions too. I'm present that sometimes I feel sad, sometimes I feel angry, sometimes I remember rage, and I'm present with that. And it's another opportunity for me to love myself in that. So it's not about being completely this this guru kind of person that is the completely balanced person. It's really not that for me, at least. I allow myself my emotions, and I allow myself to be present with what I'm feeling with the person. And then there are other times. I just had a session with a woman that she said to me when we first got into the session, she goes, "Oh man, crap." She said, "I didn't know there was going to be a man." And she said, I didn't realize that your name was Daniel. And right there, there's this moment of, oh shit on her part and oh shit on my part. What are we going to do? We've got an hour and a half. But I got present, and I realized that she's had something go on in her life that caused some kind of trauma with men. And here's my opportunity. And so I just took a breath. And again, I just reminded myself that this is not me. This is about spirit flowing through me. And I took a breath and, okay, here we go. And some words came out of my mouth, and it started to open her up. And she said, if you'll just guide me, God, this is incredible. She said, if you'll just guide me, I'll follow along. But I can't engage and just talk. So you need to guide me in this. So I started to guide her, and she started to soften, and she started to smile a little bit and open up a little bit. And then she felt so comfortable that she started getting angry. And I was present with the fact that I needed to cuss a little bit. I needed to bring in some four-letter words so I could engage with her a little bit. And I think if I was not very present with her, I would have stayed in my zone and not really connected with her on the way that she wanted to. So in that presence, I realized that, and it really had a way of allowing her to open up even more. At the end of the session, she says she felt lighter and she was smiling. So even that was a great benefit to her, I imagine. So presence shows up in different ways. It's about feeling the energy with your surroundings, with your environment, feeling and sensing the emotions that you have in you, and responding to that in the way that feels the best. And so again, and whether you're on stage or you're in front of your boss or your employees or you're in session or you're just with yourself, that presence, being present, some more words that might be um, analogous to that is conscious, to be aware, to be here, to be in attendance, to be fully here in the body, to be in the heart. All those things kind of speak of being very present. And when we can do that, we really can engage and connect with people. Um, does anybody have any questions? Okay. All right, I'm going to check the time here. Excuse me. Great. So another way that we can become more present is crystal bowl. That's another way. When I I found that when I do sound healing and breath work, I spend more and more time in the silence after the sound, and there's such presence in that silence. When I hit the gong or the crystal ball or even bells, and you ring a bell and then you wait for that silence, there's such presence in that, and that seems to be such a great time for healing. The other thing that helps me to be more present is to realize that the things that make me not present are my thoughts. And when I really recognize that I am only the one that is aware of my thoughts, that the only thing that is true is I am, and my thoughts are trying to get my attention, trying to make me believe that something is more important than I am. And I pull back from that. It is kind of like a pulling back. I know that my mind wants me to worry about these things and talk about these things. But if I pull back myself, just take a breath and realize that probably 99% of my thoughts probably aren't true. They're probably some form of belief. And that helps me pull back more and get more present with myself. If I'm in a conversation with someone and my thoughts are trying to take me over and they're worried about these things and what are they going to say, and if they say this, I'm going to say this, it's a real opportunity to inquire, what is it that I'm worried about happening? What am I going to lose? So it's when I start going into this, it's like it's really not about the details of what's happening right now. It's the energy that's being created. So my mind wants to go into the details, but my heart says, okay, what's the energy here? And that's where real learning starts to happen. I hope you have the most magnificent day, and that is everything that you want it to be. I thank you, I love you, and bless you, and I'll see you next time. Thank you.